This is 𝗕cie𝗂𝘁𝘁, podcast for the people.
Rachel, good morning. Welcome to the Born or Made podcast.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here. I have been listening to your stories and I feel like you're such a fun storyteller. I'm really excited to get to share mine a little bit.
Well, you're the storyteller. I'm just the story guy. This is all about you. So the first thing I always like to ask is like, where am I talking to you from right now? Like what city, what state, where are you at?
I'm coming to you from Birmingham, Alabama.
Alabama? So are you a Southern girl?
Well, here's the deal. So I did grow up in the South, but I moved to Las Vegas after I graduated from university. And then from Las Vegas, I met my husband and moved to Los Angeles. And then my husband did a residency at UAB, which is the University of Alabama, Birmingham. So that's what brought us back to the South. It's like a big circle.
So where were you actually born at then?
Well, I'm from Concord, North Carolina, which is a little town right outside of Charlotte.
Oh, yeah. I know exactly where it is. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the NASCAR capital of the South, I think.
I was going to say NASCAR. Everybody knows. I live in Virginia now, so trust me, we know about NASCAR. Yeah.
Oh, no, I do know Virginia knows about NASCAR. Do you know what's funny? My first time, so I've always heard about Talladega. And I've always we watched the movie and everything with Will Ferrell from back in the day.
Oh, yeah.
But my first time going to the biggest race, Talladega, was when I moved to Alabama. And I mean, I felt like I knew about NASCAR growing up. We always would go to the track in Concord. But I felt like I learned about NASCAR from being in Alabama and going to Talladega. There's just something different about Talladega than any other track I've ever been to.
Did you go in the infield?
We did. So it was really cool. I got to, so I went with Ford Performance and I got to go into the pit and they let me listen to the drivers. They let me hang out. And so you go in to the infield part where you're where they have all the cameras and kind of listening to everything go on. Then we also, before the race started, we got to go out and meet some of the drivers when they have their little cars. It's crazy to me how small these cars are. That's the other thing. They look normal size on TV, but I think that they're smaller. I don't know. They felt smaller.
That is so cool because we'll talk about this real quick. Because but I've always heard people make their own redneck jacuzzis and hot tubs. And I mean, I heard it's like a party, like crazy.
Oh, it was crazy. So we didn't camp out there or anything. I went with Ford Performance. So my whole I was there as an influencer. So we did we did the pit passes and we did the Club 212. And so my experience was very different. But I will tell you, I went to the campground because I had heard that from as many people that live in Alabama that do all the things. And they're like, you have to go to the campground. So I was like, fine, I'll just go walk around. It was wild. They set up shop. It's like any other festival. I don't know if your viewers have gone to Burning Man or to Coachella, but it's like any other festival where it's like a bunch of, RVs and people are tent camping. They literally set up these giant hot tubs that are inflatable hot tubs. I saw some people with cold plunging tubs, which was hilarious. Individual cold plunging tubs. I was like, it is hot. I get it.
That is so cool.
It was just so fun. But the RVs are really over the top there too. They're just probably $1 million RVs. It's insane.
That is so neat. Wow. That's crazy.
It was really fun.
So let's go back. So you're born in Concord. And so where do you go? So you're grade school, you lived there your whole life, or kind of take me through where you went through this process?
Okay, that's a great question too. So I moved around a ton as a kid. I think I went to 6 different elementary and middle schools. I lived in Texas for a little bit. We lived in Pennsylvania. We lived in Connecticut. We lived, where else did we live? And we moved to Charlotte. We moved to, I think, 2 different places in Texas. My parents are not in the military, so I don't know why we moved around that much when I was younger. I ask my parents that all the time, and they don't have good reason. But I went to a ton of different middle schools and elementary schools. Then we came to Concord, and I graduated high school from Concord, from Northwest Cabarrus. And then from there, I went to Western Carolina University in the mountains of North Carolina. I feel like I'm a small town girl. Like, I've moved around a lot, but never like New York or LA until I was older. But I think because of that, I probably did develop a thicker skin and the ability to like maybe be a little bit of a chameleon, because you kind of have to, like, when you're especially growing up, you have to try to fit in, and part of fitting in, especially when you're moving around a lot, is kind of like figuring out how to be a chameleon in these new situations. You have a lot of advantages as like the new kid, but also a lot of, I don't know, I felt like disadvantages. I don't want to move my kids. Like, I want them to stay put. My husband went to elementary, middle, and high school with the same people. And I was like, that sounds like a dream. And he's like, it wasn't, I wish I had more experience. And I was like, no, like, I feel like that sounds like such a dream, because I went to so many different elementary and middle schools, but it did prepare me for what I do in life now, I think. And gave me the courage, maybe because when I graduated university from Western Carolina, I moved to Las Vegas as a 22-year-old, not knowing anyone. Maybe I was 21-year-old, not knowing anyone, which is kind of crazy. I look back and I'm like, wow, I actually can't believe that I was able to do that. So funny story, I got a job for Chevron Mining, as a water treatment specialist, extracting arsenic, go figure, from different water treatment facilities. And I had a degree in chemistry.
So you actually had a chemistry degree? Chemistry
degree, yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you're really smart.
I do like to say that I'm pretty smart.
Yeah, I would say, chemistry.
I studied, and that's what it was.
Yeah, you put in the time, but still, chemistry's hard. Like,
it was work. It wasn't that it was hard. I think it was that it was just work, but it's a different kind of work than what I do now. Like, when you're doing chemistry, you're like, a lot of book work, a lot of time in doing experiments, a lot of like research papers that you're reading. I think that was fun for me in undergrad. I always enjoy science, and I find it very interesting, but I don't know that working in a lab was really where I was meant to be. It's very like, I felt very secluded. I felt very like, some people love, you work by yourself,
sure.
You do your job all day, nobody bugs you, you are only working on different, like instruments, and then you put stuff into the computer, and that's kind of your day. But for me, I felt like I lacked the people connection, and I was lacking the chance for me to be myself. So it didn't really feel as much like a job that I really got excited about.
Did you go get a master's after that?
No,
okay.
I was going to.
Yeah.
I was going to go to UNLV and get a master's in chemistry education, because I was like, I will work at PBS and I'll do like some science education stuff with kids. But then I ended up going on Big Brother.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear about all this now. Okay,
So in 2008, I did this contest, and I was traveling around. I did my chemistry job. And then on the weekends, and sometimes during the week, I would take off of work, because I would travel around the world, like not just the country, but the whole world, as a bikini model. And I was doing like Hawaiian tropic modeling, and I was like Planet Beach. And then I was working for different swimwear companies. And I was just like, also, by the way, I'm living the life, like one weekend in Maui doing a photo shoot, and then going back to a job in chemistry. Which was very boring. So I will say that I think that my experience, it was weird.
How do you go back to work? So you're arsenic girl Monday through Friday, chemical girl, and then you're like, Oh, and by the way, I'm running around bikinis in Maui. Do the people at work know you're doing this yet? Or are you kind of like a stealth model, or how does this work? Like, that's crazy to me.
I don't think I had some friend, like I had one friend in the office and they knew, but I don't think we really, I didn't talk about it. You know what I mean? Like I wasn't going to work. Like I said, you don't really talk to a lot of people so we worked in Mountain Pass, California, which is in between Las Vegas and Los Angeles. So we were driving an hour to work every day anyways. So you're in the middle of the desert, we're working on a mine, like literally on a mine, extracting arsenic from different water treatment sources and figuring out like working with different instrumentation, like a BET or like just different instrumentation. And we would, just do water treatment testing. And I wasn't really, in the middle of my water treatment testing being like, hey, speaking of water, I was in the Bahamas last weekend.
Yeah, that's a tough segue. And I mean, truthfully, engineering, I mean, you're kind of an engineering mentality when you're a chemist. So those are not necessarily the most social. You have a unique skill set.
I would definitely agree. I don't think that a lot of people in my office were very social. Oh. It was we were working for Chevron, so it was really interesting. I appreciate that I had that life experience, but I don't think that it was for me. Then I worked as a cocktail waitress because I met my roommate from doing this like hard rock modeling job. And so she was also doing the modeling job with me, and she became my roommate. And she was a bartender in Las Vegas, making 10 times what I was making as a chemist. Yeah. Like, no exaggeration. She's like, you should really work as a cocktail waitress in Las Vegas. You'll make way more money. You're already here. And your chemistry job's cool, but like, you don't like it and you could do it whenever. And I was like, that is a good point. So then I was doing cocktail waitressing. I was traveling to do the bikini modeling. I would do like some fashion shows here and there. Then I ended up winning this so I was Miss Sturgis. And what that basically means is that Sturgis motorcycle rally. I went to South Dakota. Then I was on the cover of a magazine with Steven Tyler from Aerosmith. And so I got to go to his he loves motorcycles. And so I got to go to his garage, and we did a photo shoot in his garage, and I got to be on the cover of a magazine with him. It was really cool. I mean, that was also like a crazy experience because I felt like after that, I was like, I called my mom and I was like, hey, I feel like my life just took a different direction. And she was like, what do you mean? I was like, I don't know yet. I don't understand. But it's not going to be the same. And she was like, okay. I was like, it's just going to change. And then after that, I ended up doing Big Brother and got into reality TV and moved to Los Angeles. So yeah, it's been a very fun experiences in my 20s.
So how do you get on Big Brother? I mean, you obviously go through a quote interview process.
Yeah.
I mean, so what do you just like, back then, not everything was internet driven. So what do you just like, oh, wow, there's an ad for Big Brother. I think I'm going to try. I mean, like what in the world would make you think about even doing that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I was a fan of the show.
Okay. So you were watching, so you knew what it was.
So
okay,
I knew of the show. I had watched it. It's, $500,000 cash prize at the time. Now it's $750,000. At the time it was $500,000. So I went to interview at the Hard Rock Cafe in Las Vegas. They had an interview, like an open call casting for it. I came with like a headshot and like a resume. And I was like, I don't know. What do they want? You don't really think, because for me, I grew up in the South or like in the small towns, and LA was so unreachable. It was so untouchable. Like I didn't know anything about it. Like what reality TV to me was just like, they probably want a headshot and a resume, and they probably want you to be an actress. And I thought that's what you think when you grow up in the small towns. You just don't really know. And it just feels so, like untouchable. And so I went to the interview. I was expecting nothing to come from it. As a matter of fact, I was working that summer at the Encore Beach Club, and I had a few other trips planned over the summer for different like obligations. I had like already applied to UNLV again because I was like, I'll do a master's degree. So I was going to start like continue to, work on my education. I think you kind of don't really know what's going to happen. And then when doors present and they open, and if you're not scared to like walk into the door, I think it can make for a really cool life decision. But I went to the audition, almost didn't go, went, and the rest is kind of history. I feel like I think I did like maybe 10 different interviews. I don't know the actual number, because it felt like it was just so many interviews. So you go in
one after another. One. So you're doing another.
Yes, it's just one after another. And then they fly you out to Los Angeles to go in for interviews, and you're there for a full week. But yeah, it's really an interesting casting process.
With 10 other people, like, so you're going, I mean, obviously there's a line you get in. So now you're going to LA. I mean, are there 20 other people kind of, jockeying for these positions, or how does that work? Are you by yourself? I mean, are you scoping out your competition, or?
There's definitely, so at the open call, there was hundreds of people. I will tell you, it was a lot of people showed up. A lot of people showed up for that. I was there probably 2 hours waiting. Then for the call, like they call it a callback, that was at a different hotel. So that was at the Trump Plaza in Las Vegas. And then, that probably, we waited around for like an hour for that. There was a lot of people as well that they brought to this like open casting, or it wasn't open. It was like a callback. You went into a hotel room and you just sat down and talked to a producer for an hour, just like you and I are doing, talking about your life, how you grew up, like what direction, what trajectory is your life going to go in, all that stuff. And then you go to another casting that they do. I think it was maybe on the phone, because we didn't really have Zoom back then. It could have been on Skype. I just don't really remember, but it was another, they talk to you again and you do some more interviews, and then they call you and you do more interviews. Then if you make it to Los Angeles, you go out, you don't see a lot of other contestants, but they're there.
Okay.
And they have a full week. So you go through background, medical, psych. You don't do interviews. All the executives are there. The casting team was there. We met the producers for the show. So everyone's sitting in a room, and you kind of just, same thing. You keep talking about yourself. Why do you want to be on the show? How are you going to play the game? What does this mean to you? That kind of thing. And it's interesting because you tell the same story so many times and you feel like you've told it 100 times. And then you realize this person probably has never heard your story before. So that's really interesting, because they'll ask the same questions. You're like, why? I literally just was in a room 5 minutes ago telling this, and like, they're asking the same question. So it's a really interesting experience. But it's fun. I mean, it's definitely something that, if you're brave and you're up for it and you want to do the show, that I would definitely recommend to people.
But I mean, if you win this thing, you're going to be on TV, and you're okay with that. Like, you were like, totally,
yeah. I mean, I was already doing, like, I was already kind of had my like foot in the door, basically, with all the modeling. And then, I did like little hosting like jobs in Las Vegas, and we did like conventions where we would go and be brand models for different companies. So I had already kind of put my foot in the door where I was like, I want to be on TV. I want to be in this industry. When I was younger, I was doing a lot of musical theater, and I was in the Renaissance Festival, and I always knew that it was part of like my soul. Like, it's just something that I personally know that I cannot escape. I love it. So I knew that I needed to be doing that. I just didn't understand how to get there, I think. So I think I knew my whole life I was a performer. Oh, by the way, which is funny, this is a sidebar. My mom had me in like little modeling fashion shows for like 𝗕cie and JCPenney's when I was little. And I would always pick the bikinis or the little kid like bathing suits. And so I was like technically a swimsuit model when I was like, 7 years old.
That's so funny.
So I think it's just who you are.
Yeah. I mean, when you're sitting here talking about being a chemist and now I'm hearing this, I'm like, boy, you talk about oxymoron. I mean, that's like, holy cow. Like that is so
But I will say,
funny.
if you think about it, the arts and sciences go together so closely because there's a little bit of curiosity with the entertainment industry and a lot of research that you have to do. Same thing with like science, And I do feel that arts and sciences are very closely intertwined, just not working as a, chemist extracting arsenic.
So when do you go in and give Chevron the bad news that you're leaving?
Oh my gosh, that was it. It happened in a lot of different ways. But basically, I had started working as a cocktail waitress. So, and I think it was just kind of like we parted ways. I guess it was more like that. Like, I don't know that there was ever California is like a right to work state anyways. So it wasn't like, a big ordeal or anything like that.
I just thought it'd be funny if they're like, you're doing what?
Oh, no, it's nothing like that.
That's funny. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you go through Big Brother. So kind of give me this whole thing, because I don't know that much about that. I'm a lot older. So I'm like, I didn't watch a lot of reality. Mine was American Idol, with all my kids growing up watching that. Totally different, obviously. But, that was kind of the into my side. So you get on. So we got this. You go through all this interview. Do they just they call you and say, Rachel, guess what? You're going to be on Big Brother. I mean, how did that work? I'm always interested how this works. Yeah.
I was working for Encore Beach Club for the summer and I had a opportunity to work Memorial Weekend, which is like a really big deal in Vegas. You make so much money that weekend. And they told me I had to be in Los Angeles to do this finals that week. And I was like, no, there's no way I'm giving up this opportunity. I'm going to lose so much money. And if I don't get picked for the show, then I'm not going to have anything to come back to. And it's just not going to happen for me. It's not going to happen. And they're like, well, everyone really likes you and they really want to meet you. And I think if you, come out that you'll definitely get on the show. And, as the casting directors at that time, I didn't know, it was probably all a lie, but they were just convincing me. So they convinced me to go. And I still didn't know if I was going to be on the show, but I felt very confident going out there. If I went, that I would land the opportunity. And maybe that's part of this industry where you need to just be confident and know that you're going to land it, because we work in such a crazy industry. I do casting now myself. And so now I just think through all the people I talk to and all these different people that are confident they're going to get on the show, they typically do actually get on the show and people do actually really like them. So I always kind of look back and think in my head, if that is a way to get cast. I do tell people that when I'm talking about how to get cast on shows. But so I went out and they don't tell you on Big Brother because it's a surprise for your key, but they tell you things like, make sure you have all your affairs in order. Make sure that you are prepared to be gone for 6 to 8 weeks. Make sure you're prepared for 3 months of being gone. And you're like, okay, that's fine, whatever. And you don't really think about it. And then you're like, wait, does it mean I'm on the show? And they're like, we can't tell you. So they keep you in the dark, but you do kind of know. So I really knew when they told me to prepare a full day of filming content in Vegas. Basically, they're like, we're going to film you doing different things and we want to kind of tell your story. So I kind of knew at that point, because I'd already gone through so much of the process anyways. I was like, okay, this has to be the day that I get my key. But they do tell you on the spot, hey, you got your key. You're leaving, you're going today, right now. We have a flight for you in an hour. And you're like, oh, okay. You really do have to pack. I was not packed. So I did have, I think, 1 hour to pack. But that's how they tell you. It's more of a surprise on Big Brother. A lot of other shows, we tell the contestants like, hey, the production really likes you. Make sure you're ready. Hey, start getting your affairs in order because you're a finalist. They don't tell you that on Big Brother. But now I know at that point, I should have known I was definitely on because of the things that they were saying. So you just kind of know.
So based on what I'm hearing from you say, you've been confident your whole life. I mean, you're picking out swimsuits at 7. I mean, you just always been that way, you think, just that confidence. I mean, you have a persona about you that would imply that, but I mean, we all fight that demon, right? Do I have, am I good enough? But you had to show up, right?
Yeah, no, I think so. Obviously, like a lot of the confidence that I have, as I said in the beginning, probably does stem from being insecure, from going to move around from all these different, different places when I was younger and going to different elementary schools and different middle schools and having to constantly, fit into new situations. So something about that just kind of does train your brain to just be easily adaptable. As far as confidence, at this point in my life, I feel that I don't really have to prove anything to anyone anymore. So I know that even in my 20s, I never felt like you don't really feel like, I don't know, good enough, or you don't have that confidence. And then it just became a point where I started to feel confident in who I am as a person. So now I feel like I don't have to prove anything to anyone, and I don't have to compete for things. And, if it's meant to be, it'll happen. Just like these opportunities that I always walk into, if the door's open, I'm going to say yes. And if the door's closed, then, I have to figure out another way. And it's either getting through that same door, figuring out another way, or just kind of like, walking around the door into a totally different opportunity.
Really? Wow. That's interesting. Yeah, that's a great, I mean, I hope everybody gets that. That's neat to be able to have that perspective, but just like you said, being willing to walk through that door. I mean, that's a big deal. Cause like you said, you almost didn't go to the interview of Big Brother. That would have potentially, well, not potentially, it would have changed the course of your life in a different,
100%,
no question, because then you're,
no question.
Yeah. Wow. So
and I've had, because of that, because of Big Brother, I changed the course of my own life anyways, because I was doing something totally different, living in a different state, went on Big Brother, met my husband, my fiance, or, I met a guy on the show, got married, got engaged, got married, and moved to Los Angeles with him to be with him while he was doing his PhD at UCLA, which is why I moved to Los Angeles. And then because of that, I did all these other reality shows for the past, 14 years. Plus, I started getting into casting, which I absolutely love. I started getting into production because of that. So like I said, you have to you walk through that one door and you just keep going until the opportunities, when these doors open, you walk into them. And then like when I was pregnant and I was like, obviously couldn't be on a reality show, I was like, I think I'm going to try to do casting because I love the industry and I want to kind of figure out how I can still be a part of this industry. Same thing with production. I started like producing my own shows and making my own, content. And that was something that it's scary and it's hard. And I'm always very self-conscious about that. But like, I just do it. I walk in the door and I just show up and I be this person, this ball of energy, and that's all I can be. And try to bring light into the situation. And then until that door is closed or until the path leads in a different direction, then I'll just continue to walk forward, I guess is what I'm saying.
So have you had any like really failures, like when you're casting? I mean, you just got one wrong. Obviously, we'll talk about names, but I mean, have you had any like big setbacks you just had to overcome? Because you have such this incredible personality. You're very positive, but we all know, right? Sometimes you get punched in the face, right? So you had any of those experiences, we could talk about?
Well, I've been on 10 years of reality or 14 years of reality TV.
Okay.
I feel like that's all like setbacks.
Okay. That's fair. Okay. I won't argue about that.
I'll tell you, like, there's so many times where I question, should I be at a different place in my life or a different place in a career? Or should I be, more advanced than I am? And that's because I look at social media or because I compare myself to other people's journeys. And I did that a lot in my 20s and 30s. And now I'm very comfortable with where I am. I'm like, well, I have to bloom where I'm planted, and I have to figure out how to continue to do what I love, what my soul tells me I want to do, and what makes me happy. And life is so short. It's crazy to like second guess it or to not do what you want to do. And because you have a failure, and I've had a million failures, I've cried a million times, a million tears have been shed, but it's too short to dwell on them. So I love to cry, let it go, and then move forward. And I think that's probably also what I'm known for. I don't know if you know that about me, but I cry, and then I just kind of like go kick butt. That's how I live life too. I'll have a failure and I think that my life is over, and then, I cry about it and put the pieces into order and then move forward. I think crying is therapeutic for me.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
I think that, yes. So, just, wow. I get it. I guess, as guys, we're like, oh, we're not allowed to cry. I'm the biggest crier. I cry on commercials. There's some you're like, oh, that's so special. I'm very tender hearted, I guess I would say. And so
me too.
I think I think it's a wonderful thing, to be able to do that. So what is casting? So your casting is like you're interviewing a person for a particular spot on a show. What is that like?
Yeah.
Because you're going and you're doing what I'm doing right now. Like this person walks in, I know very little about you because that's the way I like to do, because I want to just learn. And what's that like? Because you got to be getting like, you think, oh, this is going to be the one. You walk in, you're like, oh my God, that person was terrible. Is that, it's got to be kind of fun.
So casting is, it's like a circular job. You find the people. So first you have to find them. The network will tell you what they're looking for, or whoever you're working for tells you what they want. Okay. And you go out and find it. So they'll say, let's say it's a dating show. Hey, Rachel, we want to cast a bunch of reality stars. I got to be a casting director on this show called Second Chances. And that was the scenario. They said, we want to cast a bunch of reality stars with a bunch of normal people, but they have to like be compatible and they have to make sense. So we want you to find the reality stars that will do it, and then find the normal people that will make sense for these people. So first you have to go. So first we found the reality stars, and we would say like, hey, what are you looking for? What kind of people do you date? Like, tell me from your dream person, who's your celebrity crush? What do you want if you could have the perfect person? And I would take notes and I'll say, okay, this is what they want. This is what they want. And then we go interview people, and you have to go on the internet to find. So like my friend 𝗕elle. So I was on the Traders US with her. And then I got the opportunity to cast Second Chances, and she's single. And I was like, she's so beautiful. She needs a man. And so I interviewed her and I was like, what do you want? And she told me literally to the T, like what she wanted. So I was like, oh my God, we have to find this guy. She wants tall, dark, and handsome. She wants, a guy that like works at the gym or owns a gym, or like, she was so specific. I was like, I don't know where I'm going to find this guy in Los Angeles, by the way. Like they have to be in like a region. So I was like, we went on Instagram, we went on Facebook, we like asked people's friends, like, hey, do you know a guy like this? We ended up finding this guy who does like body lifting or whatever, their personal training, body lifting. And then he also like owned a gym, and he was like pretty much like everything that she wanted. And he was like Latin and she's Latin. And so they can speak Spanish to each other. And it was just crazy how like well it worked out. So that happens sometimes, but sometimes like it's a fail. Like I thought that this other girl, so this girl, Corinne, who I filmed this other show with, she's on The Bachelor. And I was like, okay, I found this perfect guy for you. He's everything you asked for in like, you're going to love him. She shows up. The date was horrible. Neither one of them have talked since. So like,
oh no,
you never know what's going to happen. So you're like a little bit of a matchmaker. You're doing research. You're kind of like the FBI because you're stalking these people. We find their contact information in the most like crazy ways, because if you find someone that's perfect, you have to reach out. You have to get in touch with them. So we do that a lot too with like, so I work on The Golden Bachelor, and we were just casting The Golden Bachelorette, and we would go on dating sites and try to find people, or we would go on LinkedIn and try to find people. And then you have to figure out if they're single and how to get in touch with them. So it's a lot of like tracking people down. And then after you track them down, you do the interview and you find their story, and you kind of have to see where they're at, because they have to be in a spot. If it's a competition show, I need to know that they're like in a spot where they can do this competition show, go in there. They want to compete. They want to win. They have the drive. If it's a dating show, we need to know that they're ready to, if it's a marriage show, that they're ready to get married. If it's like a hookup show, that they're just there for hooking up. So you kind of have to figure out where these people are in their life. Some people apply. That's not very often that they find people from the applications.
Shocking.
If it's a docu-follow, you have to like find people's friends of friends of friends and just talk to people, which I apparently am very good at.
Yeah. I mean, that when you were saying all that stuff, and I'm like, and she has a chemistry degree. I can't help but not go back to that. It's like, wow, that's just great. But I mean, I can see it now when you're talking about younger and doing all this stuff, and it actually makes sense. You just happen to be hyper intelligent from a book standpoint, understand how to study and do. So that is so fun. So
just taking the time. That's all it was. It's not about like I feel like it's work. That's what it is. Work. It's literally, if you could get a degree in anything you want to get a degree in that you're interested in, because the point of it is you just have to be interested in it, because that means you'll do the work that it takes to continue to do this, like whatever degree or project or whatever it is in life. If you're not interested in it, it's going to be a chore. If you're interested in it, you'll do the work. You'll read the books. You'll do the extra research. You'll listen to the lectures while you're walking on the treadmill. If you're interested in something and it's something that you want, you'll make sure that you go for it. But if you're not, if you're not interested, or you don't know what is interesting you, what's going to send that spark that's going to make you connect with it. If you can't find that connection, then you're just never going to be able to pursue it to the degree that you need to.
Something that you're the first one I've interviewed. One of the things I liked is I write about this in my book is you really didn't have a plan, but it worked. In the fact that you took opportunities when they were sent, everybody wants this, like, oh, I'm going to start here and this one, and everybody has this scripted life. I didn't have that. And you did not. And the fact that just where you were, that is just, I think that's so neat. And it's energetic, right? There's something, you have an energy that, like, for you to do that is just, congratulations. That's actually very fun. I actually liked hearing that. So what are you doing today? What are you doing now? You just kind of hanging out in Alabama, or what are we doing?
So I do my Amazon Live shows.
Okay, so you're Amazon
I do
Live.
Amazon Lives. Yeah, 3 times a week, which is really fun. I love my Amazon Live shows. It gives me the flexibility to kind of like create my own shows. So I do Mondays at 10 a.m. Central Time. I do a show where I talk about reality TV. I love reality TV. And we gossip, and it's like an entertainment morning show. Then on Sundays at 6 p.m. Central Time, we have a show called 𝗣cie Village, and we film content throughout the week with our kids. So we will, go to a soccer game, or like this past week, we did pumpkin carving. We did Halloween costumes. We did, what else? We baked a Halloween pumpkin cake. So it's just like a lifestyle family kind of show. And then on Fridays at 12 o'clock, my Amazon show, we talk about beauty and we talk about hair products. And sometimes I'll have guests come on, and just kind of like what I'm using or what you should use on film, or even just simple things like, my daughter has really bad tangles. What can I do to get rid of the tangles? So more like lifestyle beauty on Fridays at 12. What else do? I do casting full time. Most of the time, I work on numerous shows, just kind of depends on the project. And anything entertainment, filming, I go constantly and filming different projects as well, because I love it. I can't get enough. Like I literally, for me, like I said, my soul is there and I really enjoy doing that. So I love to be on camera. I love to be behind the camera. I'm always creating something. Being a mom, by the way, takes up like, oh my God,
Yes.
My daughter has so many activities. So it's like doing that. I try to get my daughter into as many like acting-y kind of musical theater things as well. So I take her to a ton of performances and I get to do that. What else do we do? I don't know, like 24/7 I'm busy. But it's fun. I enjoy it. And I always am, like I said, I'm walking through the doors that present themselves to me and doing the best job that you can, because if you don't, then those doors will not be presented to you anymore. So whatever presents to me, I always will walk through and continue down that path until another door or opportunity comes.
Wow, that's great. Well, our time always goes faster than I ever imagined. So I always get to ask, my favorite question of the day is going to be, do you think you were born or do you think you were made?
Gosh, I don't even know how to answer that. I think I was, I don't know. I think we're all a little bit made. I think we're all, for me especially, I just kind of, I didn't have a plan. I just kind of follow what my heart tells me and take my journey a day at a time and try to live in the present. So I think I'm probably made. I think that I build off of my past experiences, learn from my failures, and continue on life's journey wherever it shall take me.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that. And you have a great smile and a great laugh. The fact you didn't have a plan just makes me happy.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for saying that. I
That's
appreciate
great.
that.
Well, Rachel, thank you so much for being on the Born or Made podcast. It's been a pleasure to speak to you today.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure to speak to you as well.